Ford Focus has evolved, this improved version of the Mark IV model offering slicker looks, a much improved Sync 4 infotainment system and extra technology. There's also impressive efficiency beneath the bonnet thanks to 48-volt mild hybrid engine tech. The best part though is that you should still find this car to be as rewarding to drive as it's always been. The Focus might have grown up, but it certainly hasn't lost its spark.
Here's a Ford Focus for a very different world. All its predecessors have been almost automatic segment bestsellers, but this facelifted fourth generation model competes in a very different market. The emphasis is now on profitability rather than sheer sales numbers, and the class is being splintered by customer defections to crossovers and full EVs. Ford needed to significantly alter its focus to better compete, which in late 2021 brought us the car we're going to test here. As you might expect, a lot's changed in this segment since this fourth generation model first arrived back in 2018. Vauxhall's Astra and Volkswagen's Golf have become more avant-garde. Hyundai's i30 and Kia's Ceed are better value. Skoda's Octavia is more spacious. And even this Ford's previously unmatched driving dynamics have been all but equalled by the Mazda 3. On top of that, quite a few rivals now offer much more efficient plug-in hybrid or full hybrid options in this class. Technology that this fourth generation Focus still does without. What it does have is less effective 48-volt mild hybrid tech, which can now be matched with the company's latest 7-speed dual-clutch power-shift auto gearbox. Plus, a raft of new camera safety and driver assistance features are now available. And the estate body shape gets a more practical load area. The biggest change across the range, though, can now be found inside, where quality improves and most models get a class-leadingly large 14.2-inch central infotainment screen, which with plush trim can now be paired with a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. So, will all that and a bit of a visual update be enough to rejuvenate this model's fortunes in this segment? It has, after all, been such a definitive car for Ford since the original arrived back in 1997, which was followed by a second-generation version in 2005 and a Mark III model in 2011. This successor in that model line is the highest quality Focus model ever. So, should it still be high on your family hatchback shopping list? Well, you'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the Car and Driving Road Test, to find out. Nothing's really been changed in terms of handling or engine choice with this facelifted Mark IV Focus, but that's because Ford had already introduced engineering updates to this car as recently as 2020. Assuming you haven't driven a Focus since then, you're going to want some answers to the really big questions here. What's the electrified engineering that's been added into this fourth generation model over the last few years really like? And has it in any way diluted this car's greatest calling card, its energetic drive dynamics? It certainly shouldn't have. Ford's choice of mild hybrid tech rather than the more efficient full hybrid technology that rivals like Honda and Toyota offer in this segment means that the weight penalty for this technology is as relatively slight as the frugality benefit it delivers, which will be good news if you're the kind of person who likes their driving. This fourth generation Focus does, we're told, share the same DNA as the original Mark I model we saw 2 decades ago. Has any version of this car entertained quite as much since? Well, possibly not, though throughout the last 2 decades this Ford has still just about managed to hold on to its mantle as the best handling contender in this category. In recent times, the fourth generation Mazda 3 has run it uncomfortably close, but with every other segment rival, this Ford still holds a decisive advantage when it comes to the driving position, the feedback through the wheel, and in particular, the way the car responds as you throw it into a corner. And of course, none of that is different with this facelifted model. As you'll know though, if you've tried latest versions of class rivals like Volkswagen's Golf, Vauxhall's Astra and Peugeot's 308, the opposition is catching up. Which makes it disappointing that Ford still hasn't standardised proper multi-link rear suspension across the range. You only get that with the Estate body style or with the ST hot hatch. The brand says we shouldn't worry about this, claiming even the basic old tech twist beam damping system to be, in its way, quite sophisticated thanks to its inclusion of the patented so-called force vectoring springs for the rear axle that the company originally developed for its Fiesta ST hot hatch. These are cleverly bent into their fittings so as to be able to apply a stabilising lateral force onto the rear wheels, as well as performing their usual load-bearing tasks. With these in place, it was possible to specify softer ride bushes without damaging the taut, responsive cornering stability that Ford wanted this family hatch to have. As a result, we've found that this car offers a firm but reasonably friendly demeanour to your lower spine over tarmac tears, though in twist beam form it certainly doesn't ride them with the ease and fluidity that you get from a multi-link suspended variant. Still, you can certainly feel the rigidity benefits of the C2 platform this fourth generation model introduced, which is complemented by responsive EPAS electric steering and a brilliantly tactile shift quality from the manual transmission, all of it combining to leave you minded to overlook any remaining damping deficiencies. And in the right circumstances, push on through the bends with the kind of confidence you wouldn't normally expect a contender in this class to be able to give you. The handling further assisted by various even more finely tuned aspects of electronic assistance. Things like torque steer compensation, a subtle stability control system, and torque vectoring control to get the power down through the bends. It all combines to create a car that really can still reward at the wheel, even in its most affordable forms. We should get onto engines because, as mentioned earlier, the Focus engine range has gained a dash of hybrid electrification in recent times. Hybrid engines aren't new in this class, of course. Toyota has been offering hybrid tech in this segment for most of the last decade. But in their full-fat form, hybrids add what for many buyers is an unacceptably large price premium to small cars of this kind. It's now pretty difficult, after all, to buy a Corolla, even quite a modestly specified one, for much less than around £30,000. What if a more affordable approach into hybrid tech could be delivered that would be lighter, cheaper and more driver-orientated? Well, Ford says that its MHEV mild hybrid tech does just that. True, as we'll see in our cost of ownership section, it's nothing like as efficient as a full hybrid or a full electric model. The kind of thing that top spec Focus money would these days also get you, so make sure you know what you're buying. But in compensation, MHEV tech boosts driver feel because it's lighter and adds a slice of extra pulling power just when you need it. At this point, we're compelled to revert to what the shampoo adverts call the science bit, so feel free to glaze over for a minute or two if all you really care about is how much this car costs or how well it drives. Simplicity's the keynote here, so the 1-litre 3-cylinder EcoBoost petrol power plant this car primarily features is essentially the same one Ford's been offering since 2011, more recently enhanced with cylinder deactivation tech, which cuts down on cylinder use at low to medium throttle speeds. For the Focus MHEV though, this unit gets a lower compression ratio and a larger turbo, and it's been embellished by a beefed up starter generator driven by a belt at the front of the engine that stores the energy harvested when you brake or decelerate in a tiny 48-volt lithium-ion battery secreted at the back of the car, which provides a bit of extra zip when you accelerate. Ford says up to 50 newton meters of extra torque, and delivers a little electric boost from low revs to torque fill while you're waiting for the turbo to spool up. So that little momentary hesitation you sometimes get with small little turbo engines when pulling off from roundabouts and away from junctions is dealt with too. All good then, if it works. Broadly speaking, it does. Few potential Focus MHEV customers will have the ordinary version of this engine to benchmark against on their test drive. But those already familiar with it would perhaps notice that in mild hybrid form, this unit pulls more easily from almost any speed with fewer gear changes needed, which makes it feel like a much larger capacity power plant. Your only real clue to the hybrid system's operation is an added set of icons on the instrument cluster that show when the motor is recuperating energy under braking or providing it under acceleration. With the new digital instrument cluster we've got here, that's shown even more clearly if you select the provided hybrid gauge. Otherwise, the Focus drive experience is pretty familiar, with a pleasingly fizzy, thrummy soundtrack under full throttle. You certainly wouldn't think that the little EcoBoost lump beneath the bonnet ahead of you had just 3 cylinders and a litrage capacity not much different to that of a good bottle of Burgundy. Enjoying this 1-litre EcoBoost engine in its most affordable 125 PS form with the mild hybrid system fitted requires you to specify Ford's latest dual-clutch 7-speed power-shift auto gearbox. The brand does offer a 1-litre EcoBoost 125 PS Focus variant with a 6-speed manual stick shift, but in that form you have to have the old unelectrified engine carried over from the pre-facelifted range. Either way, the performance stats are very similar. 62 miles an hour from rest, occupying 10.2 seconds, en route to a top speed of just over 120 miles an hour. Here we've got the 1-litre EcoBoost engine in its uprated 155 PS form, and stretching to that guarantees you inclusion of the mild hybrid system and gives you a choice of manual or auto transmission. This 6-speed manual model makes 62 miles an hour in 9 seconds, a stat that the 7-speed auto version improves to 8.4 seconds, with both topping out at around 130 miles an hour. Whatever your choice between the 1-litre variants, once you're on a proper give-and-take road, this car can really shine. Get the engine singing, and it's hard to believe you're working with just 999 cc's beneath the bonnet. Your alternative route for motive power at the foot of the Focus range is the brand's familiar 1.5-litre EcoBlue diesel unit. Yes, you can still have a diesel engine Focus, though now this power plant comes only in 120 PS form and only with the company's older tech torque converter 8-speed automatic gearbox. To be frank, it's a bit of a rumbly old lump, but if you're not amongst those with a pathological objection to black pump fuel, you might well like the way that this unit produces nearly double the mid-range pulling power that base versions of the 1-litre petrol power plant can manage. 62 miles an hour from rest in a Focus diesel occupies 10.6 seconds en route to 120 miles an hour. So those are all your mainstream Focus engine options. The only power plant we haven't yet mentioned is the one you'll find at the very top of the range, the potent 2.3-litre EcoBoost petrol unit used in the Focus ST, which is a variant offered in hot hatch and estate forms. It puts out 280 PS and comes with a choice of a 6-speed manual gearbox or a 7-speed power shift paddle shift auto transmission, with both options powering you to 62 miles an hour in 5.8 seconds on the way to a top speed limited at 155 miles an hour. That's a model we'll cover in a separate film. Whatever engine you choose beneath the bonnet, you'll want to get to grips with Ford's standard drive mode system to get the most from it. This borrows the kind of technology we've long seen on premium badged models in this segment, using normal, sport and eco settings to alter steering feel, throttle response and, on auto variants, gear shift timings to suit the way you want to drive. It can alter ride quality too if adaptive damping has been fitted, but you can only have that, Ford calls it continuously controlled damping, on the top ST model, which is a pity because the sporty ST line trim level we're trying here could probably do with it. ST line spec has to be had with rather firm, stiffened sport suspension. With all this talk of sportiness, it's easy to overlook the reality that most motoring writers seem to ignore, namely that the majority of Focus customers don't really place any serious dynamic demands on this car at all. These people will probably be more interested in the efforts Ford has made to improve cruising refinement in recent times. They might appreciate the way that Ford's automatic gearboxes adapt to your driving style, or approvingly consider the fact that this Mark IV model's clever electric brake booster has taken up to a metre off its stopping distance. They could like the idea of an optional adaptive cruise control setup that can take over driving duties on the highway. And there's more than a possibility of interest in the useful active park assist system that can take over steering, throttle and braking duties while automatically manoeuvring you into either parallel or perpendicular spaces. In short, whatever your driving priorities, this Focus aims to have something compelling to offer, which is probably why so many people will like it. Back in 2018, we wondered whether Ford ought to have been a touch more adventurous with the look of this fourth generation Focus, and you could say the same about the Blue Oval brand's approach to this mid-term facelift. Subtle evolution, though, never did this model's Volkswagen Golf arch rival any harm, and you could certainly argue that this car has now moved closer to its chief competitor in terms of visual sophistication, both in hatch and estate form. Key to this will be front-end overtaking presence, and sure enough, most of the aesthetic changes here are concentrated at the pointy end. The nose is higher, the bonnet's sleeker, and the grille is larger, now the home of the brand badge. And flanking this appendage are redesigned LED headlights that include integrated fog lamp functionality and a more distinctive nighttime signature. As before, the front-end look differs significantly with trim choice, with bespoke fog lamp design and different grille styling. Chromed horizontal grille bars for the volume titanium models, vertical grille strakes for the active versions, and a honeycombed finish for the ST line variants, like this one. Much less has changed from a profile perspective, regardless of your choice between this 5-door hatch body style and the alternative estate variant. Now, some estate models in this class are hardly any longer than their hatch stablemates, but that's not the case here. You get nearly 300mm more length with a Focus station wagon. As before, ride height's lower for sporty models like this ST line variant, but 30mm higher for the active versions. And facelift updates in profile are limited to different wheel designs. There are 5 styles available, and as before, rim sizes vary between 16 and 19 inches. We've got 18-inch pearl grey alloys here. Otherwise, it's all pretty familiar, with athletic sculpting that sees one flow increase drop down over the front door handle, and another ease out of the panel work of the rear door to give the haunches some extra shape and purpose. At the rear, the main change is the adoption of these revised 2-piece tail lamps, which get smoked lenses and which, above entry-level trim, feature full LED illumination and an internal design with a darker central section and an eye-catching loop light pattern. Unique bumpers feature for the Active and ST line models, which also get this lower grey diffuser-like panel. As usual, though, what's more important is the stuff you can't see, namely the light and stiff, strong C2 structure that made its debut back in 2018 when this 4th generation model was first launched. A chassis which also underpins this model's close cousin, the Cougar SUV. Ultimately then, a neat but subtle visual update's taken place here. But at the same time, a lot of the really neat features we liked before have been retained. The My Key functionality, for instance, which allows you to program this ignition key to set a maximum speed limit, a seatbelt reminder, and even control the volume of the audio system, all of which will give you perhaps a bit more peace of mind if you happen to be loaning your Focus out to your son or daughter. So time to take a look inside. Right, let's take a seat up front. Now, what was needed here to match the prevailing segment standard was a big step up in cabin quality. What we've actually got is a big step up in cabin technology, which obviously isn't quite the same thing. The exact amount of that you get depends quite a lot on how far up the range you're prepared to go. But the main update, this all-new 14.2-inch central Sync 4 landscape touchscreen, is now fitted to all models above base trim, and it lifts the interior quite a bit. If you want that paired to the feature that really does complete this mid-term cabin upgrade, this 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, you have to spend quite a bit more, because that only comes if you specify your titanium, active or ST line focus with pricey Vignale trim, and it can't be added in as an option if your chosen model doesn't have it. That big central screen has inhaled all of the previous ventilation knobs and buttons, meaning that from titanium trim upwards, Ford has had to completely redesign the centre stack, which isn't the sort of thing designers would usually expect to have to do with a mere facelift. We'd hoped that as part of that there might have been a step up in perceived fascia quality, particularly in view of the much higher asking prices, but the previous feeling of this car very much having been built to a price still persists. It's just a few little touches that make the difference between this Ford and, say, a Volkswagen Group product. For instance, would you get fake door stitching or a centre console box fashioned from a cheap plastic moulding in a Golf? We think not. Of course, if you happen to be coming to this car from a previous generation Focus rather than a competing product, your perspective might be rather different. At its launch back in 2018, this fourth generation design was definitely much improved inside. The soft touch dash top, the flock lined storage areas, this smart concertina ring storage tray lid between the seats, this electronic handbrake and these elegant fascia trimming strips all will be impressive to long-time Focus owners who haven't tried one for a few years. It's just that the segment standard in this regard has moved on faster than Ford has felt able to go. You might be prepared to forgive much, though, for the advantage of being able to enjoy this segment-leadingly large centre Sync 4 touchscreen. Everything you need is here, complete with crystal clear graphics, over-the-air updates and easy functionality. Normally, we're not too keen on climate controls being relegated to screen submenus, but this setup works reasonably well. The ventilation function's permanently displayed along the monitor's bottom edge, though finding the one you want requires you to take your eyes off the road for longer than you'd need to simply use a switch or a button. As is now normal with this type of setup, the home screen can be split, usually as here, between navigation, audio and phone functions, with everything else you'll need hidden behind three subsections: settings, features and mobile apps. Because, rather annoyingly, on volume models, Ford hasn't provided a dash or steering wheel button for switching between the three available drive modes, it's the features section you'll be using most. Scroll around other parts of the screen and you'll find a wide range of features. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, of course. A new connected navigation system that includes TomTom Real Life and predictive traffic information with Garmin in-cloud routing. A valet parking feature, a vehicle Wi-Fi hotspot, and the Ford Assistant speech recognition system that works in 15 languages and can combine with internet searches conducted by the built-in Ford Pass Connect media system. Plus, using the Ford Pass app, a range of connected services can be accessed from anywhere using your smartphone. Anything else you want to know will of course be covered in what you view through the steering wheel. Conventional variants get a 4.2-inch trip computer screen, but as we mentioned earlier, if you specified your car with the Vignale pack of extras or gone for the top ST hot hatch, you'll get this 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster instead of the usual analogue dials. This widescreen layout springs into life with fancy graphics, though unlike some other rival model virtual cockpit screens, it can't be specified to show full-width navigation mapping. Select one of the various driving modes and it alerts your attention in a really eye-catching way with a digital speedo alongside the bespoke setting layout you've chosen. Otherwise, the display is based around a central area that can be configured in various customizable ways, flanked by two outer virtual dials, a speedo on the left and a rev counter on the right, which initially look rather curious due to the absence of outer bezels. Between these gauges, you can prioritise readouts for audio, nav or phone info, or choose select screen, which allows you to choose display options from quite an extensive list, though we're not quite sure why Ford feels the need to restrict you to just 7 choices. A click on this steering wheel button can scroll you through readouts for things like fuel economy, trip computer info, tyre pressures, an eco behaviour option, and on MHEV models, a hybrid gauge which shows you when deceleration or braking is regenerating energy. If all of this represents information overload, you can also select a calm screen, at which point nothing at all will be shown between the gauges. It's all very clear and informative, making rather unnecessary the optional head-up display we have here that projects its images onto a rising glass panel below the base of the windscreen. You view the instrument binnacle through this smart, higher quality 3-spoke stitched leather steering wheel, which, like the seat, features an impressively wide range of adjustment. With the original first-generation version of this car, Ford made great play about having created a design that could be comfortably driven by anyone between 4'9" and 6'9", and ever since, the Focus has remained a great choice for any size or shape of potential owner. True to form, this version feels right from the moment you get behind the wheel, thanks to near-perfect driver positioning and supportive bolstering, particularly if you get a version fitted with the powered 4-way driver's seat adjustment that we have here. Relatively thin A-pillars and properly placed pedals also help. Rearward vision's pretty uncluttered too, which is just as well because though all-round parking sensors are standard across the range, a rear-view camera costs extra. Here we've gone a stage further by trying an improved active park assist system able to steer you into either parallel or perpendicular spaces at the press of a button. The more we've lived with this car, the more we've appreciated the little touches that Ford has included. The optional 10-speaker B&O premium audio system we're trying here is nice to have, but less obvious things have also contributed much to our enjoyment of this model. For example, nearly all Focuses include important features that you might well have to pay extra for on the more affordable versions of rival cars in this segment. Things like driver's seat lumbar adjustment and a quick, clear, heated windscreen for frosty mornings. You also get an electronic handbrake, not our favourite modern era automotive development, but one that does undeniably free up a useful amount of extra cabin stowage space between the seats. In this area, there's a coin tray behind the handbrake switch, and to the left of it, that sliding cover we referred to earlier, which conceals a couple of cup holders. While we're talking about cabin storage, we'll tell you that the door pockets are a touch on the small side, but you do get a big storage area at the base of the centre stack that includes a 12-volt socket and both USB-A and USB-C charging ports, plus an optional wireless phone charging mat. The lidded storage bin between the seats includes a lift-out top tray, ticket clips are built into both sun visors, and you can get a reasonably sized glove box too, though unfortunately this area can't be cooled. Right, let's take a seat in the rear. Now, prior to 2018, when this Mark IV model was originally launched, the Focus model line couldn't really offer you much more backseat space than you get in some larger Super Minis, but to some extent a 53mm wheelbase increase and 18mm of additional exterior length took care of that. Lots of new segment designs have been launched since though, so will the space provided by this Ford still feel competitive for those travelling in the rear? Let's see. By and large, yes, the space on offer here can certainly be bettered by quite a number of class rivals, but it is at least now competitive, certainly to a rival Volkswagen Golf, helped by the decent foot space provided beneath the front seats. We also approve of this low centre transmission tunnel, though a centre-seated adult will still be as relatively uncomfortable on longer trips as they would normally be in such a position in a car of this class. What else? Well, the head restraints are of the kind that dig uncomfortably into your shoulder until you raise them, and we'd think twice before specifying the optional panoramic glass roof, which reduces the otherwise very acceptable headroom levels by a few inches. Nor do you really need it, because the relatively large expanse of side window glass makes this part of the cabin feel quite airy. All variants offer decently sized rear door pockets, outer ISOFIX child seat attachments, netted seatback storage areas, and across the range you'll usually find this centre armrest with cup holders and these useful centre USB-A and USB-C sockets. Let's finish by taking a look in the cargo area, pausing on the way in pulling out these wide opening doors to notice these neat optional door edge protectors that pop out to prevent car park dings. And the easy fuel filler neck, designed as usual on Ford cars to make it impossible for you to inadvertently put diesel into a petrol model or vice versa. Now, this fourth generation Focus has proved to be the only one designed to date with a relatively class competitive level of cargo capacity, though by segment standards it still isn't anything to write home about. Load to seat back height in this hatch model and you get 358 litres. To give you some class perspective, it's 381 litres in a Volkswagen Golf. You'll lose 68 litres of that room in this Ford if, as here, your car's been fitted with the underfloor subwoofer needed for the B&O premium audio system. At least all Focus models come with a mini spare wheel as standard, which isn't always the case in this segment. Load to the roof, and without the B&O setup, you'd have up to 443 litres to play with in this hatch body style, though if you want to carry longer items without folding the rear seats, you'd have to pay extra for the family pack that'll give you this centre ski hatch. There's no adjustable height boot floor in this hatch, but there are bag hooks on both sides, along with a dim sidewall light and the usual floor tie-down points. Plus, a hazard warning triangle sits beneath the parcel shelf. Obviously, if carriage capacity is particularly important to you, you'll be looking at the estate version of this car. A variant Ford has actually put quite a lot of effort into improving as part of this facelift. The station wagon's 593-litre luggage area, 728 litres loaded to the roof, is now trimmed in cropped carpet with shorter fibres that make it easier to clean. Plus, there's an additional side load net for smaller items and twin LED lights to provide clearer illumination when loading in the dark. The estate model's adjustable load floor now has a central hinge, allowing it to be folded to create a vertical divider that locks into place at a 90-degree angle, creating two separate spaces to keep items more securely in place. Plus, the estate model's load area also now features a wet zone with a load floor liner inserted into the space to provide water resistance against items such as wetsuits and umbrellas. The water-resistant lining can be removed from the space for easy draining or cleaning, and the area can be enclosed from the rest of the boot with floor folded down or separated with the vertical divider to create wet and dry zones. Neat. With both body styles, the seats have a conventional 60-40 split, and in both cases you have to go round to the side door to release shoulder catches before you can flatten them, because Ford hasn't provided sidewall catches for that purpose in the boot. When everything's pushed forward in this hatch, you'll have 1,320 litres to play with up to roof level. It's 1,250 litres with the B&O system fitted. For the estate, the capacity figure is 1,620 litres in standard form or 1,576 litres with the B&O system installed. The estate gained an extra 43 millimetres of roof height as part of its fourth generation redesign, an increase apparently calculated so as to enable owners to comfortably accommodate a dog crate. Go for that station wagon variant, and auto-folding easy-fold rear seat backs come as standard. Plus, you can have a gesture-controlled powered tailgate if you're prepared to pay extra for it. Prices in this segment, as in most others, have risen hugely in recent times. When we first tested this Mark IV Focus back in 2018, it was possible to get yourself into one from around £18,000. At the time of testing this facelifted model in late summer 2022, Ford was asking a minimum of £23,500 for Focus ownership. As before, there are two body styles, this 5-door hatch, or for a model-for-model premium of £1,160, a more versatile estate option. As for trim levels, well, Trend Spec marks the bottom of the range, and the now petrol-only 2.3-litre ST hot hatch and fast estate models sit between £35,000 and £38,000 right at the top. In between are the core spec levels that make up the bulk of the lineup, the ones you're probably considering if you're interested in this car. Plush Titanium, this sporty ST line model, and the lifestyle type Active models. Each of these three core mid-range spec levels can be further embellished with a Vignale equipment pack for £2,200 more, which is the case with the ST line Vignale we're trying here. When it comes to engine and transmission availability, the makeup of this facelifted Focus range takes a bit of understanding, so we'll try and guide you through it. The base price we mentioned earlier doesn't get you the company's mild hybrid tech, only the unelectrified 1-litre EcoBoost 125 PS unit carried over from before. There's a big price jump to around £26,000 and upwards if you want to progress further in the range. If you can stretch to that kind of level, you'll find that the MHEV mild hybrid version of the 1-litre EcoBoost engine is available only in 7-speed PowerShift Auto guise with 125 PS. Get the perkier 155 PS version of that MHEV unit, and you have a choice between manual or auto transmission, the auto requiring £1,200 more from you. At the time of this test, Ford is still offering a diesel, its 1.5-litre EcoBlue unit with 120 PS, priced from just over £25,000 and only available with the company's older tech 8-speed auto. Got that? Good, we'll be asking questions later. On to the value proposition on offer here. Now, there aren't many family hatchback sector models that can still be had in the £21,000 to £22,000 bracket these days. Base versions of the Hyundai i30, the Citroën C4 and the Seat Leon. But that's about it. A more common price starting point for a family hatch model of this kind is the £23,500 starting figure that, as we said earlier, characterises the entry-level version of this Ford. Base versions of the Mazda 3 and the Skoda Octavia cost about the same. For a base Volkswagen Golf or Vauxhall Astra these days, you need to think in terms of a budget starting from around £25,000, and it's the same for a Peugeot 308, though with that car, the figure does at least include standard auto transmission. We mentioned earlier that the base mild hybrid version of this Focus, the 1-litre EcoBoost MHEV 125 PS model, was, at the time of this test, only available with auto transmission, the cost at the time of filming being around £25,500. That's quite a bit more than a 1-litre automatic mild hybrid Hyundai i30, which costs from around £22,500. But it's about the same as you pay for equivalent mild hybrid petrol auto versions of the Seat Leon, the Skoda Octavia and the Mazda 3, while the cheapest mild hybrid 1-litre auto Volkswagen Golf is well over £27,000. For reference, if you want much more economical full hybrid engine technology in a car of this class, say in a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic E HEV, you'll need a price starting point of around £30,000, the kind of money you could easily pay for a Focus with top-spec trim. Right, enough on all that. Let's say you've decided that this is the Ford that you really want in this segment, and you're going to need to know just how generous the Blue Oval brand has been when it comes to the standard spec. Well, you be the judge. Even if you can only afford to buy into the range at base trend level, you still get a reasonable amount. Tick off full LED headlamps, a quick clear heated windscreen, front and rear parking sensors, a Thatcham alarm. Plus, there are selectable drive modes that alter steering feel, throttle response and, on auto variants, gear shift timings too. Inside of the base trend model, you'll find manual air conditioning, cruise control with an adjustable speed limiter, lumbar support for the driver's seat and the brand's Sync 3 8-inch central touchscreen with navigation, a 6-speaker DAB audio system, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring, and Ford Pass Connect media connectivity. Estate versions get roof rails, and all variants come complete with a mini spare wheel, often optional in this class, and an extensive roster of camera-driven safety kit, which we'll get to in a moment. Plus, you get the usual neat Ford-specific touches, things like the Easy Fuel system that stops you pumping in the wrong type of fuel, and the Ford My Key system that enables you to program various parameters into a spare ignition key, so that if you loan your car out, say to the children, you can restrict the speed at which they drive and even the stereo volume they choose. My Key can even disable the car altogether if driver and passenger are not using safety belts. It can also prevent the driver from deactivating safety technologies like stability control. Most Focus customers, though, will be avoiding base spec and choosing between the 3 mid-range trim levels that make up the bulk of the lineup. The next step up in the range is titanium spec, marked out from the entry version by 16-inch alloy wheels, LED tail lamps and a chrome-trimmed grille. Plus, you get keyless entry and dual-zone electronic air temperature control. All Focus models from titanium spec upwards come with the much more sophisticated Sync 4 central touchscreen, which is 13.2 inches in size and incorporates the ventilation controls. If you want more on a Focus titanium variant, the Vignale pack we mentioned earlier adds larger 17-inch wheels, rear privacy glass, Sensico faux leather upholstery, a 10-speaker B&O audio system, a wireless phone charger, powered driver's seat adjustment, heat for the front seats and steering wheel, a load-through ski hatch and a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster to replace the usual analogue dials. The next level up in the range lies either with sporty ST line spec, which, as we said, is what we have here, or with the crossover-inspired Active models. It's the same price either way. There's a dynamic body kit and sport suspension for ST line trim, or on the Active, raised rough road suspension with an increased ride height and an extra slippery driving mode. As mentioned earlier, you can get that Vignale pack of extra equipment that we just mentioned with both ST line and Active models. We've actually got an ST line Vignale model here, and that pack gets you all the Vignale features we just briefed you on. Plus, larger 18-inch wheels, which with this ST line Vignale have evocative red brake calipers. As for the top ST hot hatch models, well, they of course have their own bespoke look and feel with a unique body kit, 19-inch 5x2 spoke alloys with a magnetite matte finish, and unique ST sport suspension with a limited slip differential. The main change for ST buyers over the previous pre-facelift version is the substitution of Ford Performance front seats instead of the previous Recaro chairs. With the hatchback ST body style, you can spend an extra £800 on an optional Ford Performance pack, which gives you an additional track driving mode and an adjustable, continuously controlled damping system. And on the manual model, launch control, special shift lights and a rev matching system. Enough on standard spec. Let's say that you've decided on the Focus trim level you want. Are there some key options that you'll need to set aside some extra budget for? Well, quite possibly yes. Avoid entry-level trim and you can have a panoramic glass roof. If you've a variant without the mild hybrid tech, you can add 18-way manually adjustable comfort spec seats. If you choose the estate body style, you can add a hands-free powered tailgate. And if you've gone for a plush Vignale pack variant, you can add a head-up display and dynamic matrix LED headlamps with glare-free lighting. We've been trying both of those features here. These matrix headlamps include specific light patterns to illuminate signs and shine your way through bad weather, and dynamic bending for better cornering vision. The various available optional packs might be worth looking at. A winter pack adds heat for the front seats and steering wheel if your chosen Focus variant doesn't have it. A family pack adds a wireless phone charger and a ski hatch. And if you've chosen a Focus with auto transmission, a parking pack adds door edge protectors, a rear wide view camera and an active park assist system to automatically steer you into spaces. With this popular ST line trim level, those doing without the available Vignale pack can add red brake calipers, interior scuff plates and alloy sports pedals. Bear in mind that you'll almost certainly have to pay extra for your chosen paint colour. Solid race red is the only standard shade. We've got an extra cost exclusive shade here, fantastic red. Practical options for the cargo area include a boot liner, a reversible load compartment mat and a load retention net. You can also specify a rear bumper protector to guard against scratches when you're sliding heavy stuff in and out. If you're activity orientated, you might want to look at a bike pack carrier that goes with the crossbars you can specify for the roof. Plus, there are the usual tow bars, roof boxes, wind deflectors, mud flaps and carpet mats. OK, enough with general spec and options. Let's move on to take a look at this car's safety provision. Across the range, the brand has added a rear occupant alert feature that reminds you to check the back seats when leaving the car. And the standard pre-collision assist autonomous braking system now includes a clever intersection assist feature, which uses the car's forward-facing camera in combination with radar to monitor the road ahead for potential collisions with oncoming vehicles in parallel lanes. The system can automatically apply the brakes when travelling at up to 18 miles an hour to help prevent or mitigate accidents where a driver is turning across the path of an oncoming vehicle, such as at a crossroads or junction. The system functions without the need for road markings or furniture, and also at night with headlights activated, and as before, pre-collision assist has pedestrian detection built in. Also new and standard across the range is Ford's local hazard information feature, the Blue Oval brand's version of the Car2X system we've now seen on quite a few Volkswagen Group models, including the current Golf. The setup is able to communicate wirelessly with other similarly enabled vehicles using Wi-Fi technology, so as to share information and brief your car's electronic systems automatically on traffic updates. So, for instance, if you're stuck in a traffic jam, the system will know before you do when the end of the jam is coming up and tailor the car's systems accordingly. And local hazard information incorporates a hazard warning system that advises you of impending roadworks, accidents and emergency vehicles. It can even detect when other cars with the system are performing panic braking in front of you, and in such an emergency will turn on your own brake lights even before you've reacted to help avoid you being rear-ended. Otherwise, the safety changes made here apply mainly to extra cost features that Ford has now embellished. So the optional blind spot monitoring system we've been trying here now has an assist function that steers the car back into position for you if you're about to dangerously pull out in front of another vehicle. If your Focus has the larger Sync 4 touchscreen, the same setup can also be had with trailer coverage, which allows the driver to enter the length and width of the trailer they wish to tow using the central monitor. What else? Well, don't go looking on the spec sheet or the options list for any of the latest, most cutting-edge semi-autonomous driving assist features. But with an auto gearbox model, the adaptive cruise control system you get with the popular driver assist pack, a £525 extra, does have a stop-and-go feature that will automatically slow the car when you come across a tailback, then seamlessly start it off again when the traffic eases. As before, that driver assist pack also has a driver alert fatigue sensor, auto high beam and traffic sign recognition, plus cross traffic alert that warns you of vehicles approaching if you're reversing out of a space, and wrong way alert, which makes a huge fuss if you attempt to drive the wrong way down a one-way street. So much for the safety and drive assist updates. Otherwise, the safety tally on offer is much as before with this Mark IV model. We mentioned the pre-collision assist with pedestrian detection system earlier. If, despite this, you still manage to have a collision, A post-collision braking feature is incorporated that automatically applies the brakes to try and help avoid the car spinning off to hit something else. There's also a lane-keeping alert system that warns you if you veer out of lane, and a lane-keeping aid that will automatically steer you gently back to where you should be. And Ford provides an intelligent speed assist speed limiter to help you keep safe and legal through urban areas. In addition, the infotainment packages, as usual, include an emergency assist feature that will automatically alert the emergency services if the airbags go off in an accident. In addition to all this, there are, of course, all the usual passive safety elements, including ESP, stability control, traction control, and an ABS braking system with EBA, or emergency brake assist, for panic stops. There are also the usual twin front, side, and curtain airbags. Take all of these many and varied safety features into account, and you'll not be surprised to hear that this car achieved a full house 5-star overall safety rating from Euro NCAP, who back at this Mark IV model's launch in 2018 gave it a very creditable 85% rating for adult occupant protection and an 87% rating for child occupant protection. It's obviously crucial for Ford to get its cost of ownership sums right, hence the changes made to the engineering of this 4th generation Focus in recent years. First, at this Mark IV model's launch, we saw the introduction of cylinder deactivation technology on the 1-litre EcoBoost petrol engine that nearly all customers specify in some form with this car. That disengages the 3-cylinder unit's middle cylinder under low to medium throttle. A more significant change to this 1-litre power plant, though, lies in its embellishment with clever 48-volt mild hybrid tech. It ought to make quite a difference. As with its Puma small crossover, Ford liberally uses the word hybrid, with a capital H, to describe the electrified engineering in this car, which we can't help feeling is a touch misleading. This isn't, after all, a hybrid in the usual sense that a potential buyer would understand. An electrified Focus can't drive on electric power alone, nor can it be plugged in. Instead, the brand's mild hybrid power plants, Ford calls them MHEV units, are basically ordinary engines lightly tinselled with a tiny lithium-ion battery that just about justifies the electrified marketing spiel. The way mild hybrid tech works is pretty universal, but we'll recap on it here in case you haven't viewed our driving experience section. The 1-litre 3-cylinder EcoBoost turbo petrol engine, already pretty efficient thanks to its use of cylinder deactivation at medium to low throttle speeds, is embellished with a belt-driven integrated starter generator, or the BISG, this one of 11.5 kilowatts in output. This replaces the standard alternator and enables the recovery and storage of energy usually lost during braking and coasting to charge a tiny 48-volt lithium-ion air-cooled battery pack secreted beneath the rear seat. The BISG also acts as a motor, integrating with the engine and using the stored energy it harvests to provide extra pulling power during normal driving and acceleration, as well as running the vehicle's electrical auxiliaries. The belt-driven integrated starter generator is also able to aid the power plant's stop-start system in urban traffic, restarting the engine in approximately 300 milliseconds, about the same as the blink of an eye. And the BISG also enables the Focus EcoBoost Hybrid's auto start-stop technology to operate in a wider range of scenarios for even greater fuel savings, including when coasting to a stop below 10 miles an hour, and even when the vehicle is in gear with the clutch pedal depressed. So does it all work? Well, yes and no. Ford says that the reduction in the amount of work required from the petrol engine results in a fuel efficiency improvement of up to 9%. And that's borne out by the stats. You'd normally expect a car of this kind with automatic transmission to be around 10% less efficient than one with a manual gearbox. Yet, creditably, the returns of a Focus 1-litre EcoBoost 125 PS mild hybrid automatic, 52.3 mpg on the combined cycle, and 122 grams per kilometre of CO2 are virtually the same as those of the unelectrified 1-litre EcoBoost 125 PS manual gearbox model that Ford still offers at the foot of the range. At the same time, though, we also need to point out that a number of class rivals without mild hybrid tech, latest versions of the Peugeot 308 and Vauxhall's Astra, for instance, managed to return similar efficiency figures. Ultimately, you have to wonder whether all the MHEV engineering effort was really worthwhile. Still, it certainly kept this Ford's fuel and CO2 readings competitive. In the case of the uprated 1-litre EcoBoost 155 PS MHEV model we're trying here, those readings are rated at up to 54.3 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 116 grams per kilometre of CO2 for the manual version, and up to 53.3 mpg and up to 119 grams per kilometre for the automatic. For comparison, we'll also give you the figures for the minority interest 1.5-litre EcoBlue diesel variant, up to 61.4 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 120 grams per kilometre of CO2. And finally, we'll give you the return to the top 2.3-litre ST hot hatch petrol model. In manual form, that manages up to 35.3 mpg on the combined cycle and up to 183 grams per kilometre. Whatever Focus derivative you decide upon, it's reasonable to wonder whether these quoted returns are really achievable in real-world everyday motoring. We raise this issue because some have doubted this point, and it's certainly true that the 1-litre EcoBoost power plant we're trying here requires a more efficiency-orientated driving approach if you're to get close to the running cost returns it's supposed to be able to achieve. Fortunately, Ford's technology aids you here. The standard drive mode system includes an eco setting, which adjusts the throttle and engine settings, giving the best economy possible. Also helping is an active grille shutter, which sees slats in the front grille remaining closed at startup, so the power plant can more quickly warm up to its optimum operating temperature. On the move, the flaps can open or shut for optimum aerodynamic efficiency. What else? Well, we'll tell you about servicing, which on all engines is required every 2 years or 18,000 miles, whichever comes first. 2 prepaid servicing plans are available, one that covers you for 2 years and 2 services, and another that's transferable to future owners and covers 3 years and 3 services. Maintenance bookings can be done online through the My Ford portal. This is part of the Ford Blue Service scheme that wraps up all of the care and maintenance of your car into one bundle that includes a free 30-point e-check of vital parts and highlights any work required with a red, amber and green traffic light warning to rank items that need attention in order of importance. There's also the Ford Service app that you can download to your phone for free. It lets you locate your nearest dealer and make a booking, plus has a couple of extra elements allowing you to find petrol stations and including a Park Me feature that remembers where you left your Focus, so you won't have to hunt for it in, say, busy multi-storey car parks. As for the warranty, well, like all Fords, this one comes with a 36-month, 60,000-mile package that also includes 1 year of Europe-wide breakdown assistance. On top of that, there's an anti-corrosion guarantee for 12 years. And Ford also offers the chance to extend this cover to either 4 years and 80,000 miles or 5 years and 100,000 miles. On to insurance. If you're looking at the base, unelectrified 1-litre EcoBoost 125 PS petrol unit, groupings start from 13E. The same engine with mild hybrid tech mated to automatic transmission rates at Group 12E. For the 1-litre EcoBoost 155 PS MHEV model we're trying here, rating starts at Group 16E. For the 1.5 EcoBlue diesel, ratings start from Group 13E, and the ST petrol 2.3-litre hot hatch rating is up at Group 27E. Finally, let's consider the question of residual values. Now, this area has never been a Focus strength, but experts predict that this Mark IV version will perform much better than previous generation models. To be specific, after the usual 3-year or 36,000 mile period, a volume ST line 1-litre EcoBoost 125 PS variant should still be worth nearly 40% of what you originally paid for it. Once upon a time, the Focus was the backbone of Ford's European sales, shifting over 500,000 cars across the continent every year. But that was more than a decade ago. Today, its segment influence is shrinking. But we'd still argue that in our market over the last 20 years, this model line has had a greater impact on modern family motoring than any other. Even today, it's still the default choice for a family hatchback customer, prioritising driving enjoyment above all else. The revised version of this fourth generation model doesn't disappoint in that regard, well, provided you choose the right model anyway. It remains a pity that you can't get a volume hatch version with proper modern multi-link rear suspension. Significant extra spend is also required to get Ford's much trumpeted mild hybrid engine technology, which unfortunately doesn't actually translate into much real-world efficiency benefit. So, to want a Focus, you've got to look past these issues, ignore a few elements of questionable cabin quality, and be satisfied with a cargo area capacity some way off the class best. That was a big ask prior to this facelift, but the completeness of this mid-term update has made us want to keep this car high up on our family hatchback segment wish list. And after trying one, we think you might feel the same. The visual updates are well judged, the extra cabin technology has kept it feeling up to date, and the renewed media connectivity and safety standards are now difficult to better in the class. In short, if you can afford the asking price, you'll find that here's a family hatchback that now has more of its priorities right. A car that's grown up, but one that still knows how to enjoy itself. The Focus was the first family hatch to set the standard in that regard, and the good news here is that it still does.